Hey everyone, this is me just talking again. Trying to make this more of a regular thing in terms of just producing content. I'm sure you guys have seen me, streaming a lot more. And, last weekend was TwitchCon. And I just really just thought a lot about just the state of Smash esports and kind of in relative to like other esports we've watched. CLG has a Fortnite team. So there's a big competition at Fortnite, which had like a total prize pool of like $4 million or so involved in the whole thing. And I got to sit and observe and just kind of observe like the state of it and like what I like and what I dislike and like what it means in Smash. Ultimately, I think that Smash and Fortnite are pretty much on the opposite end of spectrums, especially when you look at developer support. You can easily look to Fortnite and say, wow, they have $100 million prize pot. They had a bunch of actually cool things. Aside from the competition itself with their booth, they actually had an entire large tent to their event with a mini golf course, like, and a lot of cool like themes and booths that surround the lore of Fortnite. So they had like a cool like photo station where you could glide on like this little like wire thing to show that you're like launching off the bus. They had like slurp juices, they had apparel. And one of the things that's like really cool about what Fortnite does is that they are able to produce lore that is easily replicable in many aspects to real life. So the fact that there's like a mini golf course and like a go-karting area on the map, they can easily replicate that in real life to create awesome experiences. And I think that they can milk that very well. And so when this relates to Smash, I think one of the cool things I would love to see, hopefully like Nintendo support down the road, if they do ever get into it, is to really support the lore, because there's a lot of awesome universes within the Nintendo brands. So having like a Dreamland themed area, or just all the cool stuff you can do with Nintendo IP, whether it's just the characters, the stages, even like the food and the clothing that you can sell in the merch. Like, I think there's a lot that could be done there that can ultimately support the infrastructure of Smash if they ever want to get into the esport. I just think that fan stuff, like, that's something that didn't really appeal to me early on, but because I'm a Fortnite casual, it's like it does have like a novelty, and it does bring a lot of people into. Maybe they're not like necessarily interested in like competition or getting better, but it does help support the ecosystem and the fan service that can help a game and its community grow. Now, with that being said, I've talked to Nintendo a few times, and Reggie's mentioned this, and I just this is kind of a repeat video of some other things I've done in the past. And really, when I think about it and I look at the direction of like Fortnite and Dota and some other things, granted, Dota like has more of a grassroots feel. It's like, do we want at the end of the day these large prize pots and all this developer support? And I always have to remind myself to kind of keep grounded. And granted, I would like a little bit more support from Nintendo's end. But, there's also the other side of the coin. And when we really begin to understand and complain, like, why isn't Nintendo doing X and Nintendo doing Y? I begin to understand more why it is just better for us to kind of remain like our own independent entity in many aspects, as opposed to Nintendo running everything. I think a prime example we begin to realize is that esports at a fundamental level is just marketing. And when you look at League of Legends, it's a market venue to encourage more sales of skins. When you look at Fortnite and all their design decisions, they're in their esports side of things. Granted, they're probably just throwing money just to flex because they're making so much of it, but these are just marketing campaigns to get people more interested in the game. So although integrity of the game remains reasonably important to keep pros and experts in the game, the developers that use esports as just a marketing tool can easily change the game, and game design is heavily influenced by what attracts the most people, what increases the player base, and what will fundamentally increase sales. So one of the things that I really like about Smash Melee and Smash is that we get to dictate the competitive integrity of the game, although to a less extent with Smash 4 because there are patches. But with Melee, the game is always going to be 4 stocks. We're always going to, for the most part, use the same set of stages, and it's really going to be like a near 100% test of skill, whereas in Fortnite, you can add these balance changes, you can add new items that change things to the new flavor of the month, and they begin to introduce a lot of random factors that can influence the game to make it more exciting for the viewer, but it makes it less, I guess, skill based. And so, given that, I honestly think that if Smash was balanced based on what can generate the most sales and what can make it most exciting for the audience, I don't think I would really like the end product in many aspects. I like the historical aspects and narratives that we have with Smash and how much control we have over that. Where with other games with developer support, you're kind of on the whim of what the developer really wants, and that doesn't necessarily align with competitive integrity or even the community itself. And by community, I mean like the competitive community, because sometimes the community can be the larger community, and what appeals to the larger community may be a hindrance to the smaller community. So I can't really imagine, like, for the most extreme example, like Leffen, like going to a game where it patches like every 2 weeks, and it's dramatic patches that lower the skill ceiling every patch. Along with that, when you get developer support, the production gets controlled by the developer. So Nintendo would control 100%. They would control the commentators who are on it, the type of content, whether it's super cringy or super like head scratching, to the language you can use, to how much you have to plug things, to the fact that like you really can't give your opinion on a game anymore when the Nintendo has the full support. Because if you talk trash on, like, let's say the newest Smash Brothers and are running a circuit, chances are you're not going to get invited to anything, and you're not going to get many opportunities with the developer if you are a little bit too open and candid with the game. Like, they might just see you as a bad voice that's a hindrance to marketing. So all in all, like, it's really cool that Fortnite has like an experience that they have. Like, I really enjoyed watching. To me as a casual, it was really exciting. It was really exciting to play mini golf and see all this like little like kind of all these little motifs and themes that you can center around the game and the IP that the game has. But as a strong, intense competitor and someone who's very into Melee, it would ultimately be sad for me if Melee were to go in the direction of developer support, in the sense that like Nintendo gets to control most of the things. And I think Nintendo really recognizes that as well, and that's why Reggie made a statement that if Nintendo got involved, then they would have to control a lot of what happens, and I don't think they fundamentally want that at the end of the day. So those are just kind of my thoughts. It's not to say that Fortnite, I mean, I love Melee, but it's not to say what Fortnite is doing in the direction they're going is necessarily wrong. It's different, and they have different goals, but for the goals that I want to see with Melee, it's clear that it's very different from the direction of a tier 1 esport where the developers have a lot of say. Not to say one is necessarily better in the grand scheme of things, but those are just my thoughts on Fortnite versus Smash.